Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss and analyze about the Government of India's decision where it has decided to curb the export of certain categories of rice and what is going to be its implication for the global trade or the global food trade specifically. To remind you, few months back government has also decided to ban the export of wheat. So we are also going to try to analyze that how the ban on the export of wheat and rice are based on what kind of rationale and how it is going to affect the global food trade. So let us try to understand that what are the contexts in which we are discussing today's issue. So as per the recent guidelines published by the Department of Revenue in the Ministry of Finance, it has clearly notified that a 20% extra duty will be imposed on the export of such rice which are other than parboiled and the basmati rice. So we are going to discuss in detail in the later part of the video that what are these different categories of rice and what is the differences between the parboiled rice and the normal rice or basmati rice. At the same time, the another notification has been published by the Directorate General of Foreign Trade, which is under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And DGFT has basically imposed a blanket ban on the broken rice export. So basically, what we can understand that we have three different categories: the 20% extra duty on any category of rice that is not parboiled or not basmati. So non-parboiled and non-basmati rice. On the other hand, we have outright ban on the broken rice exports. And Narendra Modi government, as we discussed slightly before, barely 4 months ago, has banned exports of wheat from the country following an unexpected crop failure in the last Rabi season. So what is the extent of curve? So first of all, what is allowed and what is not allowed? So we have different categories of rice. So as far as the basmati rice is concerned and the parboiled non-basmati rice is concerned, their export will be allowed as it was before. There has been no changes made in these two categories of rice. On the other hand, we have two other categories of rice, that is a raw white rice and we have broken non-basmati rice. So the ban will be applicable on these two categories of rice. So what can be the impact of this ban on the export of India? So let's try to understand this from the data that is available to us from the last fiscal year, that is 2021 and 2022. So as per the data that is available to us, what we can see that India has exported almost 21.21 million tons of the rice, which is total value of this is somewhere about $9.6 billion. So roughly we can say around $10 billion. Out of this, if we try to identify, around 3.95 million tons of basmati rice with a total value of 3.54 billion has been exported, and 17.26 million ton of non-basmati rice valued as $6.12 billion has been exported. Now, obviously, there is no ban on this category of rice. So this value in terms of value 3.95 billion tons and 3.54 billion, there will be no effect as such on this due to the curve on the export. The effect will be seen on this category of this rice. And in this here also what we can see that 7.43 million ton, that is valuing $2.76 billion of parboiled rice exports are there. So after analyzing all this export data, what we can say that roughly about 50% of India's export value will get hit due to the export or the export curve that has been imposed by both DGFT as well as the Ministry of Finance. So what is the government rationale that they have given behind the restriction on the export of rice? So first of all, there has been a significant decline or significant decrease in the amount of monsoonal rainfall, or we can say there has been a deficiency in the monsoonal rainfall, especially in the rice growing regions such as Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, as well as the part of West Bengal. And due to the deficiency in the monsoon rainfall, government is worried that it might lead to decline in the overall rice yield in this particular season or in this particular year. And this we can also see the evidences because as per the recent data, farmers all across India have planted almost 2.1 million hectare less area under rice as compared to the last fiscal year. And if the monsoon deficiency is taken into consideration and this area is taken into consideration, then it is also believed that a total decline of 6 to 12 million ton range can be observed in the yield of rice in this particular year. Not only the deficiency of monsoon and the decline of area under cultivation is an issue, the other issue that have emerged in the rice growing areas such as Punjab and part of Haryana is a special novel type of virus is circulating in the rice crop, and these have led to dwarfing of the paddy plant. So obviously if paddy plant become more dwarf and much shorter inside, obviously the yield is going to decline. So it is these two regions that has led to government worrying and putting curb on the export of rice. Not only that, there are some other issues at hand as well. First of all, government is worried that there can be or possibility of depletion of public stock of rice in the event of subpar kharif harvest. Now why should you worried about the depletion of public stock, or why government is basically worried about the decline of public stock? The reason is very simple, because during the COVID pandemic, government has basically announced a lot of free food grain schemes, and there is why there is a political pressure to continue these free food grain scheme at least till September of this particular year. So obviously there will be more demand for the rice crop. Why there will be more demand for the rice crop? Because when there was a normal yield of the wheat and rice both, then the government was dependent on providing or supplying wheat as well as rice under the PDS. Now the wheat stock of India has seen a significant decline, and now in this particular year it has reached to the lowest level in 14 years, with somewhere the value of 26 million ton as a public stock. Rice, on the other hand, we can say is a kind of, we are in the comfortable zone with about 44 million tons of rice stock in the PDS basket or in public stock. So it is basically, with the decline of wheat stock, it is basically the rice that is sustaining the public distribution system. And government is worried that if there is a decline or depletion of public stock, then the PDS will suffer a severe setback, which will be not very good from the point of view of election, or from the point of view of this populist measure that government keep on taking every now and then. So the political party or opposition parties can take advantage of that if PDS suffer. So these are the basic 3-4 reasons why government is trying to put a curve on both rice as well as it has done before in the case of wheat as well. So this is about the rationale and the impact of this curve on the rice export on India. Now let us try to understand that how it will impact the global trade. So for that we have to understand that what is the contribution of India as far as the global rice trade is concerned. So as per the data available to us, it is believed that almost 40% of world's total rice export is going from India. So India has a significant contribution in the global rice export. Now this is very, very different from India's share in the overall wheat exports. If we try to compare rice and wheat, what we can see that as far as the wheat shipments are concerned, India contributes hardly 5% to the global wheat export, while on the other hand, India contributes 40%, almost 8 times higher as far as the rice export is concerned. So when the government announced wheat ban, there is not a lot of issues, not a lot of discussion about that, and also the discussion would not have taken place. It only happened because there was also the lack of wheat export because of the Russia-Ukraine war, because both countries are the major supplier of wheat across the world. So that is why in that circumstances, the decision of the government of India to ban the wheat made a headlines. Otherwise, would not have made any kind of headline. However, the rice, the share of India in India global rice export is very, very higher, and that is why it is going to definitely affect the global rice trade. If you try to understand that which are the major countries which are exporting rice, so India is having the highest contribution, where India contributes almost 13,000 million metric tons. This figure has basically increased in 2021, where India has contributed around 21,000 metric tons. The contribution of other countries are almost similar. So the next country, rice exporting country, is Thailand, followed by Vietnam. And if you compare these two, what we can see that India's share is almost 3 times higher in the export. So the top 10 countries, as you can see, these are top 10 rice exporting countries of the world. So if India has decided to curb the rice export, which countries are expected to suffer from? So as far as the basmati rice is concerned, the India's top 10 export destination of basmati rice are basically the Arabian Peninsula and the Iran together. Apart from that, US is other major importer. So overall, the Iran and the Arabian Peninsula together make up 75% of the import destination of India's rice. On the other hand, Americas make up almost 10%, and the remaining countries are there that make up around 8 to 10% of India's export basket. On the other hand, when the non-basmati rice is concerned, what we can see that 55% of non-basmati rice goes to countries in Africa, and the major countries in Africa which are importing India's rice are countries such as you can see from the diagram here, map here, we have Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Somalia, Madagascar, Guinea, Senegal, Togo, these kind of countries. Apart from this, around 10% of non-basmati rice is taken by Nepal, and similarly about 10% of the non-basmati rice is also exported to China. And apart from that, around 8 to 10% is exported to Malaysia and UAE. So this is about the export basket of non-basmati rice of India. So these are the countries in the Africa and the Arabian Peninsula as well as Iran. Apart from that, China, Nepal are going to be most affected due to curb on the export of rice. Now, in the beginning of this video, we have discussed about different categories of rice, and two terms or two categories of rice that are very important for us to understand is the parboiled rice and the broken rice, because broken rice has been outrightly banned. The export of broken rice has been outrightly banned, and most of this broken rice basically goes to China. So in indirect terms, what we can say is that China is going to lose all the import of rice that it used to do from India, for that matter. So what is these two categories of rice? So we know that rice is something that we get from the paddy crop, and if we look at the composition of paddy, around 20 to 24% of paddy is made up of husk, that is the inedible covering of the grain, while 10 to 11% of the paddy is made up of bran, which is the brown outer layer of the edible kernel, and thus remaining 60% is actually the rice. Now, after the paddy crop is cultivated, it can be directly sent to the mills, and when it is directly sent to the mills, these 20% of husk and 10% of bran are removed, and what we get finally is a white raw rice. Now here what we have to understand, that when the paddy crop is directly sent to the mills and when it undergoes the milling process, the white raw rice that we are getting are consisting of both the full kernel of the rice as well as the broken kernel of the rice. So it is a mixture of both. On the other hand, the parboiled rice have a different method of milling. So first of all, what is done for the parboiling of rice? The paddy crop is taken, and before sending into mill, it is first of all soaked in water. After it has been soaked in water, it undergoes the process of steaming, and after that it is dried, where it retains its outer husk. After after taking the process of paddy or parboiling of paddy, finally it results into the rice that becomes much more harder, and when the parboiled rice is sent into the mills, the breakage is very less on the milling. So the parboiled rice has lot of full kernels. As you can see from the picture here, we have all the rice you can see are having full kernels, full grains. On the other hand, if we talk about the milled rice directly without parboiling, it has mixture of both. We can say broken grain as well as the full grain. So what we can say in conclusion, that what is going to be the effect of government of India's decision on the curbing the export of rice. So as per, if we believe the expert, what we can see, that as far as the white rice with 5% broken grains from India is concerned, it is being shipped out from India at the rate of $340 per ton. And if you compare the other exporting countries such as Pakistan, which is selling it at $380 per ton, Vietnam selling at $395, and Thailand, the second largest exporter after India, selling at $430. So just by putting a 20% tax on this category of rice is not going to render Indian rice uncompetitive, because even if you put suppose 20% on this, it will come somewhere about $400 per ton. So it is comparable to all other exporting countries. So obviously India's export is not going to take the hit. So I hope you understood about this particular issue, the export ban and all this kind and the effect of this on both India as well as the other part of the world. That is all for this particular issue. Thank you very much.